Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Saturday and we've got some stuff to talk about. Today we're going to take a look at 10 horror movies that you could be watching that are either inspired by, pay tribute to, or directly rip off A Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's jump right into it. Alright everybody, so with A Nightmare on Elm Street actually celebrating its 40th anniversary recently, and Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp actually going out and talking to people, doing interviews and all of that. I thought it would be a really nice time on this slow news day to take a look at 10 movies that were inspired by, pay tribute to, or outright rip off A Nightmare on Elm Street. And we've got a really cool list for you. But you're going to want to stick around for number 10 because that one is a shocker. So first off, we have Night Killer from 1990. And Night Killer deals with an amnesiac victim of a serial killer who is terrorized while police work with a psychologist to bring him to justice and stop the crime wave. Now, she receives all sorts of phone calls. She honestly believes that this guy is calling her. She starts to kind of have visions that are sort of nightmares and everything else. Soon you're questioning right along with her what is reality and what isn't. The movie tries really hard to make itself original, but it does take a lot from Nightmare on Elm Street. You could do worse than this movie. It is quite interesting. Coming in at number 2 on our list is The Wisher. And The Wisher is one of those films that, yeah, you definitely sense the Nightmare on Elm Street vibes from this movie. It also is known as Spliced. And what it is this high school girl gets nightmares and sleepwalks from watching horror movies. So her father bans them, but then she goes and sees the brand new movie, The Wisher. And as soon as she sees it, a whole bunch of strange stuff starts happening. In fact, someone or something is making all of her violent wishes come true. And that right there should tell you everything you need to know about this movie. It is a crazy, weird little movie that I'm sure they didn't think, oh, we should rip off A Nightmare on Elm Street, but they were definitely inspired by it with this movie, and it is one that if you like this type of movie, you could actually watch this and find a lot to enjoy about it. But it's not the best movie I've seen. It's not the best movie on this list. Coming in at number 3 is Dream Maniac from 1986. And Dream Maniac follows a heavy metal musician who makes a deal with a satanic succubus to make him successful with women. In return, the succubus is able to feed on the girls. Now, it doesn't sound very Nightmare on Elm Street-ish, but it actually really comes across that way. You could definitely see the influences as you're watching the movie. It is one of those that sort of tries to be its own thing. I believe that this movie thought it was being original, but they definitely had a lot going on from it. You can look at the poster of the movie and kind of see the figure coming out of the wall. It sort of does look a lot like a certain scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So coming in at number 4 is the 1988 British film Dream Demon. Now, in Dream Demon, Diana Markham is an upper-class London school teacher who's preparing to marry her fiancé who's quite wealthy. Now, she has nightmares where she's putting him in the role of these really violent scenarios. And soon, when she moves into his new home, she also starts to see fiery visions of a young blonde girl adorned with angel wings. She becomes frightened of the place's basement and kind of thinks that things are not right. And it has a lot of nice little sequences in it. You can definitely see why this one's on the list when you watch it. I think this movie is actually okay. Again, it's probably not the best movie on this list, but it is one of those movies that's sort of fun to watch. So coming in at number 5 on our list is Sleep Stalker. And Sleep Stalker is a 1995 film about a serial killer known as the Sandman, who's resurrected by a voodoo priest into a body made of sand. In order to keep his new body, he must actually track down the one victim who escaped him 17 years before. Now, this sounds a little bit like Child's Play, in that there is a voodoo priest who sort of brings this person back into a new body, but it is very reminiscent of Freddy Krueger. Even the makeup that the killer has in this movie is much more in the vein of Freddy Krueger than it ever could be of Chucky from Child's Play. So when you get that sort of vibe going on within this movie, you definitely know what you're in for. And then that coupled with the fact that it is the Sandman and the whole sleep thing, yeah, you know, that's kind of where this movie's at. And this movie isn't the worst movie you could possibly see, but it's by far not the best. But you could do worse than to watch this movie. You might find some interesting things within this movie. So I do recommend you check it out. And coming in at number 6 is Don't Panic. And Don't Panic is about a boy on his 17th birthday who unwittingly unlocks the evil forces of a Ouija board. Now, this movie's kind of crazy. It's most famous for the star, who it seems to be about 30 years old, and he's playing a teenager, and the choice that he made in wardrobe is to wear these pajamas with dinosaurs on them. That's what the movie is most famous for, but there is a lot of sort of tribute going on to A Nightmare on Elm Street as well. This is one of those movies, again, that I feel tried to do its own thing, but it was definitely inspired by A Nightmare on Elm Street, without a shadow of a doubt. You could do a lot worse than this movie. It has become a little bit of a cult classic. And coming in at number 7 on our list is the 1991 film Dreamstalker, about a motocross racing, mullet sporting boyfriend who may be haunting his girlfriend's dreams. It is really kind of an odd little film, and you could say that this film is inspired by Freddy Krueger, and you would not be wrong. She's told to move on, but she continues to have nightmares that won't end. She takes off to a cabin. She encounters a camp counselor who yells at everyone, and hip-hop dancers. It's a whole little thing that happens. It leads to bloodshed. But is her dead boyfriend on his dirt bike really to blame for all this, or is there something else going on? Then coming in at number 8 is Bad Dreams. Bad Dreams is a 1988 slasher film. And this one actually stars Jennifer Rubin. She actually played a supporting role in Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors. She was the rock star who got the needles. You know the one. Well, this movie deals with a cult, and she is the survivor of this cult, who died tragically in a fire they set themselves. And it's really sort of odd because she's having horrific flashbacks. She's seeing him everywhere she goes. And his look, this whole movie, and the sort of nightmarish sequences that this movie brings to you are very reminiscent of Nightmare on Elm Street. And with this Scarlet being part of it, can I honestly say I think it was inspired by it? Probably not, but if it was, it would be a really good stunt to bring her in to actually play in this movie, because this was the next movie she did after that movie. So after doing A Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors, Jennifer Rubin ends up in this movie that is also very much paying tribute to A Nightmare on Elm Street. You could do a lot worse than this movie. It has some legitimately terrifying moments. This is one of those movies that could actually scare you. So I do recommend you check it out. Next up at number 8 is one of my favorite films on this list, 1987's Slumber Party Massacre 2. And Slumber Party Massacre 2 follows Courtney Bates, the younger sister of Valerie from the original movie. And remember, we saw her in this original movie too. And the original Slumber Party Massacre was much more your traditional slasher film. However, this one takes it a whole step farther, with Courtney now being plagued by nightmares. And her nightmares aren't just anything. They are of a rock star from like the 50s who has this guitar drill that he's killing people with, and he has all these snide comments, very much in a Freddy Krueger-esque manner. Now, the movie kind of takes it down a road that you can't argue was inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street. And it has a lot of fun doing it. There's a lot of musical numbers in this movie that shouldn't be there, but they're fun to watch. I enjoy this movie a lot. It is one of my guilty pleasures every time I watch it. I told you a number 10 was going to be a shocker, and I didn't lie to you. Coming in at number 10 is Shocker from 1989, also known as Wes Craven's Shocker. That's right. The last film on this list that is inspired by and or sort of ripped off A Nightmare on Elm Street came from Nightmare on Elm Street's creator, Wes Craven. Now, he was kind of in this downtime where he wanted to give us some new horror. He wanted to do something new, so we meet a serial killer named Horace Pinker, a television repairman who was pronounced as the culprit. When investigating, Detective Lieutenant Don Parker gets too close. He takes out their entire family save for one kid. So his other kid, a college football star named Jonathan, develops a strange connection to Pinker through his dreams. This leads to Pinker's rundown shop, where a shootout entails, and of course Pinker escapes and targets Jonathan and his girlfriend. Now, what ends up happening here is that throughout the movie he develops some powers, and these powers are insane because they allow him to go into different electrical devices. So he can actually manipulate electrical devices, and it's very trippy and very cool. This movie is one of those that was definitely inspired by and probably did rip off A Nightmare on Elm Street. But when you take it as it was also written by the creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, this was supposed to be his next big franchise, and it actually never caught on. I really love this movie, and I think if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Now, that, of course, is where I'm going to end today's episode. And I'm going to ask you something. If you've seen any of these movies, what did you think of them? Did you think they were inspired by, paid tribute to, or outright ripped off A Nightmare on Elm Street? And also, are there any movies that I missed that you think should be on this list? As always, we want to hear from you guys, so don't forget to leave us a comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think. Then also, make sure you're sharing this video with all of your friends. They're going to want to be a part of this conversation as well. Hit that like button. It's free, it helps the channel, and we really do appreciate it. Then, Miko says we need more subscribers. And you don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell while you're down there, so you don't miss a single video we do. And then friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it, fandom is family.